Let's start this, shall we? In the 1980s, a company named Hasbro wanted to create a brand that mainly focuses on young girls, and the result of that was My Little Pony. What was originally a toy that was nothing but something that Hasbro did to get some of the money that other dolls, like Barbie, did, is now one of the biggest multimedia franchises Hasbro has next to others like Transformers and G.I. Joe, going not only for toys and all kinds of merch, but TV series, movies, games, comic books, theme parks, an ice cream flavor, a fucking official ASMR. If there's something that is in some way marketable, it's most likely that there's a My Little Pony version of that thing. So to celebrate that, and G5 starting to get some steam, I'm going to review every single TV series and movie of every single generation. As for the specials and other stuff, maybe sometime in the future. But for now, I'm gonna stick to those. So with that being said, let's go back to 1981 and see how it all happened. So, like I said previously, in 1981, American toy company Hasbro wanted to create a brand that focused on young girls, as their main focus was mainly on small boys only. And they also saw how their rival company, Mattel, had incredibly successful Barbie dolls. So with that factor, and wanting some of the money that they were making, My Pretty Pony was made. Yeah, this is the original prototype for My Little Pony. A big pony that was a heavy, 10-inch tall hard plastic figurine that can wiggle his ears, swish his tail, and wink in one eye. An interesting concept, to say the least, but then in 1982, My Little Pony was officially launched and became incredibly popular. So naturally, after you get a successful toy brand in your hands, the next thing you do is making shows about it. So in 1984, we got the TV special Rescue from Midnight Castle and Escape from Katrina, and both serve as the pilots of the eventual TV series. In 1986, the My Little Pony movie was released on theaters, and 3 months later, the TV series aired. So today, I'm here to review all of these to see how the ponies managed to transition to both the big and small screen, if there were anything good, and if they're worth watching nowadays. So, without further ado, let's begin the My Little Pony Retrospective. God help me. Released in 1984, Rescue from Midnight Castle was the first My Little Pony special released for TV. It served as a pilot for the franchise, introducing some of the characters who would appear in later series and subsequent media. So, did the ponies adapt well to the small screen and did they make something worth watching? Kind of. The story begins with the ponies just chilling until all of a sudden a bunch of monsters appear, led by this guy named Scorpion. He manages to kidnap 2 ponies and gets away with it. Then this Pegasus named Firefly goes to find someone who can maybe help them. Scorpion arrives at the Midnight Castle while he talks to Terra, this centaur demon-looking fella. He tells Scorpion that he needs 4 ponies in total to power his Rainbow of Darkness. So Scorpion leaves to find 2 more other ponies. Meanwhile, Firefly crashes into the well of a human named Megan, of which Firefly immediately befriends and takes with her, as apparently Firefly thinks Megan can help for some reason. But anyways, after that they come back to the ponies, just in time to see Scorpion's second raid. They fight back, but Scorpion manages to kidnap a regular-sized pony and a small-sized pony. Then he leaves and shows the 2 ponies to T-Rex. He demands that the small pony gets taken to the dungeons and says that with 3 will be enough, even though he said he needed 4, but alright. Then turns the 3 ponies into giant dragons, and he tells Scorpion to bring him the 4th pony by midnight, saying that he will behead his friend Spike, the baby dragon, if he doesn't do it. As that is happening, Megan and the ponies go to find a gnome named Moonshake, since they think that he could help them. But before that, one of the ponies, named Applejack, falls into the river and Megan goes to try help her. But when they fall into the river, they find the sea ponies, basically ponies but they can swim. And after a musical piece, they give Megan a seashell that will call the sea ponies if they ever need help. And after that, they find Moonshake, who says that to defeat T-Rex, they must take away his Rainbow of Darkness, which gives him his powers. Then he gives them the Rainbow of Light, which can help them defeat T-Rex. They finally arrive at Midnight Castle. They use the sea ponies to get across the water and enter the castle. They arrive at the throne room of T-Rex, but get ambushed by him after he finds out that the ponies arrived at the castle. Then turns Applejack into a dragon, and with the 4 dragons, T-Rex rides his Chariot of Darkness. But before that happened, Scorpion released Spike and the small pony from the dungeons and goes to the throne room to save Megan and the others. They go outside to fight T-Rex and try to steal the Rainbow of Darkness. And they do manage to snap the Rainbow of Darkness, but then he shortly gets it back. And as their final resource, they use the Rainbow of Light. But at the beginning, it does literally nothing, and T-Rex uses the Rainbow of Darkness and consumes the Rainbow of Light. At first, it seems like everything was lost, but then the Rainbow of Light consumes the Rainbow of Darkness and kills T-Rex. Like, no shit, after this, he dies. And then everything T-Rex transformed with the Rainbow of Darkness is restored to original state. The ponies go back to its original forms, some of the minions he had turns into regular insects, and Scorpion transforms into a goddamn prince. Not Spike though, because he's always been a baby dragon. Then they start laughing and the credits roll. Okay, so overall it was just alright. Some stuff like how the Rainbow of Light and the Rainbow of Darkness works is never actually explained, and neither is how the hell the T-Rex and Moonchick get them, or that Firefly thinking that Megan was going to be useful is something that is super fucking stupid and I don't get it. Or how does T-Rex need necessarily ponies, or the massive coincidence that they find the sea ponies by complete accident are things that are quite notable, but other than that, it's relatively a pretty simple story, so overall, the story is just fine. As for the characters goes, it's pretty forgettable. Sadly, none of the ponies really stick out, only the ones that attracted me was the ones that inspired G4, like Twilight, Firefly, and Applejack. So, in terms of the main characters, or the main ponies, sadly I got nothing. Megan, however, is quite literally useless. She does absolutely nothing, and she has no personality. I seriously cannot tell you how she acts. And as far as the villains go, they're just okay. T-Rex is your generic typical villain, but I did quite like Scorpion. He's a henchman that hates his boss, and most of the time he tries to be good. Like for example when Megan falls to her death, Scorpion saves her and basically tells her to fuck off. So at least there's someone per personality. Spike is just there, and Moonchick is a Discord one. As animation goes, it's alright. Sometimes it looks good in some characters like Moonchick and some of the background animals. And sometimes, especially for the ponies and the villains, it looks bad, rough, and soulless. However, as for the designs of the characters, there's a lot to talk about. First, let's go with the ponies. And what I'm about to say goes for the entire generation, by the way. The ponies look really bad and really, really boring and not interesting. Like, if you ask me to name any pony from this generation that isn't a main character, I seriously could not tell you for the life of me. None of these ponies have unique characteristics or defined personalities, because they either are really nice or they're dicks. And sure, there's the occasional pony with different personalities, with different patterns in their hair or different eye textures, but that is just the bare minimum, and the overall model doesn't let them have enough room to express themselves. Sometimes to make him even express a little bit, they have to make his eyes bigger or the mouth longer, which that led into a lot of inconsistencies. However, in this special, for the most part, the designs are consistent, so I'm not gonna give them too much shit just yet. It's mainly gonna be a problem later on. But yeah, overall, these are not the best designs. And the designs for the villains are even worse. They're just straight up terrible. You have this colorful, well, somewhat colorful ponies, and its colorful castle, and then you have this disgusting looking gargoyle, and this red centaur with a realistic face. It fucking clashes with the other style. Pretty bad designs. Spike has a good design though, and Megan looks like the most boring human design ever. And she is so fucking expressionless, like, for the life of her, she cannot change his fucking face. So yeah, overall the designs are not very good. Now to sound. The voice acting is not bad necessarily, but none of the ponies or Megan have a voice that is memorable. It's your generic girlish voice that never goes anywhere. And the babies...
Twilight, will I ever fly like Firefly and Medley?
That being said, I love the voices for T-Rex and Scorpion. They have just the right tone to sound sinister, but cool.
2 ponies, you say? Only 2?
Yes, master.
So yeah, definitely my favorite part about the entire thing. And the music, honestly, is just there. But, with all being said, I still really did enjoy this special. To make corrections for the script, I had to watch the special a total of 4 times, and never got actually bored. So I'll say this is a pretty good start. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But for what it's worth, I did think it's a pretty good start to the franchise. So overall, it's just fine. But anyways, what's next? The story begins what I would assume a little bit after the previous adventure, and we see the ponies are preparing a party for the return visit of Megan. Elsewhere in a cave, we see these little creatures that are called the bush willies are being forced to operate a machine that creates a potion named witchweed, that a witch named Katrina drinks to increase her powers. But when Katrina goes to sleep, the bush willies escape, leaving only Katrina's henchman, Rep. She wakes up and gets pissed at Rep for letting them escape. They try to catch them, but then she sees the ponies playing, and now she wants them to be their new slaves. She attacks them with an ice storm, but thanks to the Rainbow of Light, she's forced to retrieve. Later at night, when the party is about to start, Megan gives the Rainbow of Light to a baby pony named Moon Dancer, so that she can go to the party as she didn't have anything to go with. Then she leaves, but Rep comes in and tries to steal it, but he fails. But then Katrina comes, and she takes Moon Dancer and the Rainbow of Light with her. Megan sees this and tells the other ponies what happened, and with the help of the bush willies, they find Katrina's lair. When they enter the lair, they see Katrina holding hostage Moondancer, and Katrina tells them that if they don't become their new slaves, she will kill Moondancer via this pit that he has in her lair. But Rep betrays her and throws Katrina into the pit. Katrina starts begging for her life. Then Rep says that he will help her in the condition that she becomes good. Katrina says yes, and she becomes a giant cat and destroys his machine. And then you think that she would immediately turn around and attack the ponies. But no, she becomes actually good. Then they go to a party and the credits roll. Okay then. So overall, it was just eh. The story is obviously a little bit less developed than the last one, especially at the beginning. At first, you think this is about this pony named Sundance, but she gets cut halfway through the special and focuses on Moondancer. And some actions for some characters are just dumb, like why would you give your most powerful weapon to a baby after an ice storm came out of nowhere? And the immediate turnaround of Katrina was probably the inspiration for Discord's turnaround in G4. And other stuff that wasn't explained from the previous special gets even worse. Like, Megan literally says,
Okay, Rainbow, do your stuff.
like even they don't know how the Rainbow of Light works. It's ridiculous. And also, apparently, it's alive, so that doesn't help things. And also, there is some filler. Not so much like we're gonna see later, but a good amount of it. Like, I didn't mention the scene where Megan confronts Sundance, or when the Bush Woolies talk about getting more privileges, or when Megan puts the baby ponies to sleep, or the entire first 2 minutes of the special. But since it's not relevant to the story, I didn't mention it, because it doesn't matter at all, or affects in any way the story. So the story is just eh. But story aside, what about the other things? Let's see, the characters are just there. Moondancer is eh, and the fact that they still think that Megan is useful is beyond me, and everyone else is just there. And the same goes for the villains. Katrina is a very generic villain, which is why her turnaround is so fucking awkward, and Rep is just there as well. And the same goes for the Bush Woolies. Really, none of the characters stand out. It's pretty much the same problems the last special had. So I'm not gonna waste any more time. And as animation goes, it definitely took a hit. The lip syncing is way worse, the characters can look very emotionless, especially Megan and Katrina. And in this scene, some of the Bush Woolies' mouths go off model and they change colors. So yeah, definitely a downgrade from the previous special. But these guys and Rep do have some nice moments of animation. So there is some bright moments, but most of the time it looks eh. And as designs go, the Bush Woolies look alright, but like T-Rex and Scorpion, the villains look like shit. Especially Rep. And Katrina looked not as bad, but pretty ugly as well. So overall, it's just alright. In terms of audio, it's about the same quality as the previous one, so once again, I won't waste any time. Although, I'd like to point out that in the fight between Moondancer and Rep, there are no sound effects, and I simply thought it was fun. So, yeah, even though I didn't hate it, I still definitely enjoyed the previous special more. But I still find myself entertained for it, so that's gotta mean something. So, I'll say go check it out. I recommend the first one by a mile, but if you want a little bit more, I say go for it. But anyways, to the next one. Okay, now it's time for the big one. Released in 1986, My Little Pony, the movie, was not released for TV, but theaters. So, how did they manage to bring these ponies to the big screen? Pretty average. The movie begins showing how Spike and this baby pony named Lickety Split are doing a rehearsal for a new step that she's doing for a dance. However, Spike warns her that she shouldn't do that because it will mess up the entire dance. Elsewhere, at this place called Volcano of Gloom, lives a witch named Hydia that is planning to ruin the festival that the ponies are making, and sends her 2 daughters, Rekka and Drago, to do their job. The problem is, they are not very good at their jobs, and Hydia gets pissed that they are not like the rest of the family, and makes a song about it. And after that, she sends them off to ruin the festival. During the performance of the baby ponies, Lickety Split does the dance she was practicing earlier and proceeds to ruin the entire performance. She gets bullied by it and she runs off to her house. Spike comes in and tries to make her feel better, but Lickety Split decides to run away from the ponies, and Spike tells her to not do that. Then after a bit of singing, Lickety Split runs, and Spike follows her but leaves a note for the others. Then after a little bit, they fall into a cliff and get stuck. Meanwhile, the witches arrive and they attack with a waterfall, and at first it does nothing, but the sea ponies come in and they make everything worse, and they destroy everything. Then after a little bit of mocking, the witches flee. And after that, some of the ponies that bullied Lickety Split wanted to apologize to her. But when they arrive at her house, they find the note that Spike left behind and prepare a search party to find them. At the volcano, Hydia plans to create a monster named Smooth, a purple goo that consumes everything in its path, and if it touches you, it makes you a dick. But in order to create a monster, they need some ingredients. So she sends her 2 daughters to find them. And after a musical piece later, they find all the ingredients except the flume, which they don't want to get because it scares them. Then they go back into the volcano and give Hydia the ingredients, but knowing that she will get mad at them, they throw the bucket with all the ingredients, and the smooth is created. Then it immediately targets the castle. While that is happening, the search party just miss Lickety Split and Spike, and before they know it, they get attacked by the Smooth. The search party runs back to the castle, but the Smooth manages to trap Lickety Split and Spike into a cave. The ponies arrive at the castle and warns every pony that the Smooth is coming. They evacuate, and some of the Pegasus go and find Megan for the Rainbow of Light. Then, after a little bit, they find her, but she is with Danny and Molly, her sister and brother. Yeah, she has siblings. And the Pegasus takes them because they think that they will be helpful. Literally, why? Anyways, they arrive, and Megan unleashes the Rainbow of Light, and at the beginning, it was sort of working, but the Smooth spore set alongside the castle. At first, it seems like all hope is lost, but a song from Megan later, the gang decides to go and find Moonchick to see if he knows a way to defeat the Smooth. They find him, and after he makes a new house for the ponies that will make for a great toy, they found out that the Flutter Ponies are the only ones who can stop the Smooth. Thanks to a map that he gave them, the gang are now heading to Flutter Valley, where the Flowing Ponies are. Meanwhile, Hydia notices that the Smooth isn't as powerful as it normally does, and later finds out that the daughters didn't find the flume, so she forces them to go and find it. They get it, and they hand it over to Hydia, and she gives it to the Smooth. And now it's all powered up. And while all of that is happening, Lickety Split and Spike find these goblins called Grundles, of which their leader is voiced by the man, the myth, the legend, Danny DeVito. Then, after a song later, they help Lickety Split and Spike to get out of the cave. Hydia finds out that the gang is heading to Flutter Valley and sends a giant monster to stop them. In their way to Flutter Valley, the gang meet up with the Bush Woolies, and after some shenanigans, they arrive to Flutter Valley. At the same time, Lickety Split, Spike, and Danny fall into a river and arrive into a well. And after a song later, they found out that at the bottom of the well, there was a Flutter Pony. And as a thanks to them, the Flutter Pony guides them to Flutter Valley. When they arrive, they meet up with Megan and the others. A short talk later, the Flutter Ponies decide to help to stop the Smooth. And just before the Smooth and the witches destroy their new home, the Flutter Ponies come in and basically kill it. The Rainbow Light is freed and sends the witches back to their lair. The ponies, having a new home, they hand over the castle to the Grundles. The Flutter Ponies say goodbye to everyone, and Megan gives the Rainbow of Light to Lickety Split. The end. Well, that was something. Okay, to give credit where credit is due, the movie has a very interesting theme. How it's basically a race against the clock, or how the ponies have to find a way to stop the Smooth before it's too late. But it really doesn't do much with it. Only the castle is consumed, and like a couple of ponies and bush woolies get infected by it, but that's basically it. No major characters get hurt or anything, and the big conflict is resolved in 10 minutes. But there are some things that are just plain dumb. Like, even when Spike tells Lickety Split to not be so selfish, she still does her stupid dance anyway. Or if Hydia wanted to make this moose to work at the get-go, then why didn't she get the ingredients by herself? In the first song, it's shown that the older witches, and some of the same size as Hydia, can easily do powerful magic. So what's the excuse? And there's other stuff, like, for example, why the fuck does Megan keep the Rainbow of Light? She has no uses for it, so why does she keep it? It's very obviously that the ponies needed more than that, so why the fuck does she keep it? And only until the end of the movie actually gives it to another pony. It makes zero sense. But aside from that, there's still a lot of problems. Like, there's way more filler than the last special. Here's a list of everything that I didn't mention. I didn't mention this pony named Shady who has an arc about his bad luck and actually tries to find Lickety Split and Spike by herself, but that doesn't actually do it. Or talk about the Bush Woolies at all, or the story of how the Grundles got fucked up by the Smooths, or that I didn't talk about Lickety Splits and Spikes or Megan's journey in detail because while they're going to Flutter Valley, nothing happens in the middle. Okay, things do happen, but nothing that creates some sort of character development, anything that adds to the main plot of the movie, or anything that's worth a damn. It's just characters that go through the motions and don't do much if at all. So the story overall is eh. Now, in terms of characters, once again, there isn't much to say. At least for me, none of them stick out and they all just blend in. The only one that stands out was Lickety Split, mainly because, one, she is the first pony we ever see, and second, because I had to look at her mouth for 10 seconds straight. And that's all I got, really. And do I even have to explain how the inclusion of Megan's brother and sister is incredibly stupid and how apart from this moment with the giant monster, they do jack shit? But with that being said, I cannot say the same for the villains. mainly because they get more screen time than the actual ponies, but not for the best reason. I'm not saying they're bad characters, but they're very generic and predictable. Hideous is strict, the daughters are incompetent, and the smooth is brain dead. But something to note is that the witches have an Addams Family kind of dynamic, which is that they love bad stuff and hate good stuff. And thanks to that, it does bring some funny moments.
We wouldn't lie. I told you I don't care if you lie, but not to me!
And creatures like the Flutter Ponies, the Bush Willies, and the Grundles are just there. Not even Danny's DeVito character is relevant. So again, the characters are once again just there. In terms of animation, it's about the same quality, which is okay, but since this was released on theaters and on TV, I was expecting something of a higher quality, but oh well. But sometimes it does have some pretty nice moments of animations, and it is very fluid, especially in these smooth scenes. But overall, it's about the same. But in this movie especially, they gave the middle finger to physics, so I just wanted to point that out. As sound quality goes, it's once again just okay. It has the same issues like missing sound effects, the voice acting is again nothing to talk about, and the music is just there. However, in this movie, for some reason, they start singing before the music plays, which just breaks my immersion. So once again, it's just okay. And really, that's all I can say about this movie. It's just there. There's nothing that leaves an impression or that stands out about it, or anything that sticks with me. It's no wonder that the movie fucking bombed. It's because this movie, at its own, is nothing to talk about. And the only reason for you to watch it nowadays is out of curiosity, like me for example. There's nothing special about the story, the characters never get developed, or anytime the movie stops to chill. It's never explained where the witches come from, how the smooth functions, and how the Flutter Ponies are the only ones who can stop it. And also the movie just keeps going on and on and on. And the main reason I'm giving it so much shit is because this movie is 1.5 hours long. And sure, that's your standard, but man, they really didn't know what to do in this movie. This movie is really nothing. And that's all I can say. This movie's just there. It's not bad necessarily, but I don't know, it's nothing to scoff about. So I would only recommend it if you're extremely curious about it. But if you want something more interesting, either you look somewhere else or watch the more modern MLP movies. But okay, we're done with the big boy Generation 1 stuff. Now the only thing left is the series, so let's check My Little Pony and Friends. Okay, so originally I wanted to talk about every single story arc in the show, since I took one look at the episode list and saw how the first 10 episodes are all connected. But then I actually watched the show, and I think it's way better to talk about the show in general, because, well, I'll explain later. But anyways, here we go. The show takes place after the events of the movie, and it's all about the ponies, the humans, and the occasional episodic character stopping bad guys and having all kinds of adventures. From stopping a bunch of bees from stealing a magical stone, to a cloud that steals shadows, to stopping a giant magical castle, to meeting a bunch of fairy tale characters, to adopting a giant puppy. My Little Pony and Friends is all about having all kinds of adventures. Surely the only limit is your imagination. It's probably the show's strongest point. However, in my opinion, this makes the show pretty goddamn boring. Why? Well, sure, they have all kinds of adventures, but I think too many adventures. Since most of the time they go to all kinds of different places, they also meet all kinds of creatures and people. But as soon as the arc ends, they disappear forever, never to see again, or even get referenced. They are essentially filler, and at least for me, it makes it very hard to get invested by. And that makes one of the biggest problems with the show, and pretty much the entire generation, even more problematic. And that is that they don't make you care about the characters. If your show isn't gonna be story-oriented and it's gonna be episodic, the very first thing you must do is introduce the characters, their personality, and most of all, give you a reason to care about them. And the show never once does that. All the time they throw you all these characters and places, but never stops in their tracks to try and explain the story or lore, or give you a reason to root for them. So pretty much never did I get invested in what was happening, or ever cared about the characters, or had any kind of emotion. I just felt going through the motions, and as soon as I know it, the show ended. And also it doesn't help that some of these stories just kind of happened. Like in episode 10 of season 2, the Ice Cream Wars. The ponies go for ice cream, and then some ice cream men just start fighting, and then they reconcile credits. Or season 1's The Magic Coins arc. The ponies find some magic coins, then this guy sucks all the water, and now it's a quest to find a gift for him, and then they summon this guy, and then it just ends. And other stories just drag on and on and on. The very first 3 arcs just keep going and going and going, especially the first one, which is 10 episodes long. And by the way, every episode is 10 minutes, so multiply that by 10, 100 minutes. It has no reason to be the way it is. However, that 10-minute mark is also a blessing because some episodes go quickly, so I'm not gonna give them too much shit, but sometimes it does drag on a lot. And there were some episodes that were pretty interesting and that I like Season 1's Pony Puppy, or Would-Be Dragon Slayer, and the entire Return to Tabelon arc, and just is because of you 4, or Season 2's Spike Church and the Sonambula arc. So I'm not saying they're all bad, but most of them are pretty necessary and sometimes stupid. I think the show would really benefit from some stories about the ponies' lore or origins, or some slice-of-life stories for them, or maybe even the humans. I think all of this would make the show way more interesting and fun, but that's just me though. Now, in characters, like I said before, the show never tries to introduce the ponies, so like in the specials and the movie, the ponies are just there. Same for the humans, Spike, and the others. And as for the new characters and villains, forgettable as fuck. Like, I remember the big henchmen, the giant crabs, this creepy zebra, the pig, Grogar, and the male ponies, but that's all I got. And even these guys, after these arcs, they're gone forever, never to see again. So, again, they're just there. As for the animations, let's once again see my notes. The lip syncing is worse, the movements are very stiff, the ponies constantly change the size of their heads, especially in Season 2, and the art style is still very inconsistent. Like, why are there both realistic humans and cartoon humans? They seriously didn't see that? The hell? As audio goes, the voice acting is okay, but there were some voices that I did like. For example, the henchmen Bee and Krabs, and some lines did make me laugh pretty hard.
Spike! I think these hedge animals are alive!
Of course they're alive, heartthrob. They're plants.
And this time, there were some tracks that I actually like. I'll Get Out Fast If I Were You, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, Hey Let's Play, No Let's Go were all pretty enjoyable, but everything else is just there. How many times did I say that? And what else can I say? My Little Pony Friends is all about ponies having all kinds of adventures, and doesn't go much further than that. So overall, I didn't hate it or got extremely bored, but it was just there. And really, that's all I can say about Generation 1 of My Little Pony. Even though there were some fun characters and other highlights, most of the time, not much was happening. The lack of introducing any characters or giving them interesting designs or anything to stand out didn't help either. The inconsistencies of the world is very notable, the fact that not many things are explained. Like, most of the time, the reason the villains attack the ponies is either because they specifically need them, or just because. And how characters come and go, never to see again, and not talking about villains. Twilight, Applejack, Firefly, and others never return in the show and only appear in the first special. Animation is also very inconsistent, and not many memorable voices. My Little Pony G1 is, at best, something that can be very enjoyable and does have some highlights, and at worst, a giant ad for the toy line that never takes time to explain their world, their characters, the villains, and overall just be a boring slog. So, would I recommend watching the entire generation? Not really, no. But if you're really interested in watching it, well, first you watch the entire video, so you're already fucked. But I say watch the first 2 specials, and if you enjoyed them, then I say watch the rest. And who knows, maybe you see something that I didn't. And if you did, please feel free to tell me. And if you watched it back in the day, then also do it. But for the rest of you who saw the generations and didn't catch your attention, or you thought it was flat out bad, then you'll only probably remember these generations for the inspirations that had on G4. And with all that being said, that's my entire review on Generation 1. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you want more content like this, and please, if anything that I said is wrong, or I missed talking about certain stuff, then please let me know in the comments. And while you guys do that, I'm gonna prepare for the next generation. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with G. Hey, what about My Little Pony Tales?